The station lights glowed with a pale blue calm, but inside the command hall of the alien flagship, tension moved like static in the air. Commander Lyra stood with her arms behind her back, scales shining under the lamps. She had always believed discipline kept a military force strong, and she tried to carry herself as a model for her crew. She looked toward the center of the hall, where a human in worn battle armor waited silently. His name was Ray. He had been serving with Lyra's fleet for cycles now, ever since the humans and her people formed an alliance to push back the hostile machine swarm known across many systems. Ray was quiet and steady, a person who listened more than he spoke, someone who worked hard instead of showing off. Many in the fleet respected him, even if they did not fully understand the human spirit that pushed him forward in the harshest conditions. Ray had always followed orders, had always protected those beside him. Yet today, something heavy hung around him, something different from his usual calm. The other crew members sensed this, but did not dare speak. Lyra had called a meeting, and no one wanted to interrupt her. She stepped forward and looked Ray directly in the eyes. Her voice was firm, clipped, colder than before. "Ray, your choices during the last mission placed the entire squad at risk. You ran into the core chamber without waiting for confirmation. You could have cost us everything." Ray kept his head lowered for a moment, thinking of what she was saying. He remembered the scene. The chamber had been unstable, its energy spiraling out of control. He had seen the readings. If he had not moved in when he did, the chamber would have exploded. But he also knew he had broken protocol. Lyra valued protocol more than anything. She continued without giving him a chance to speak. "I cannot keep you on the front line if you act on your own impulses. You are not here to play hero. You are here to follow orders. If you cannot do that, then you have no place in my forces." The words fell like heavy stones. The crew looked between them. Some shifted uncomfortably. Ray lifted his head. His expression was not angry. It was calm, and that calm troubled Lyra more than a heated argument would have. "So that is what you think of me," he said. His voice was soft, respectful, but filled with a strange finality. "I acted because I knew there was no time. I made the call to save the station. I saved your crew. But if you see that as reckless, then I understand." Lyra opened her mouth to respond, but Ray had already reached for the clasps of his armor. With slow movements, he removed the heavy plates, one piece after another, placing them neatly on the floor. The hall stayed silent. Even the machines humming in the walls seemed to quiet down. Lyra felt her breath catch. She had not expected this. She had seen him take off his armor many times, but never with such intention. It looked like he was laying down something more than metal. Ray stepped away from the pile and straightened his back. His eyes were tired, not from battle, but from something deeper. "If my presence is a problem, then I will step back," he said. "I came here to help. I did not come here to be treated like a burden." And with that, he turned and walked away. No one stopped him. No one dared. The sound of his footsteps echoed through the long hall until he disappeared around the corner. Lyra tried to call out, but the words would not come. Her pride had grown too sharp, and now it cut deeper than she expected. For hours after the meeting, Ray walked through the corridors of the flagship. He thought about his past missions, the people he had saved, and the many times he had nearly lost his life for those who were not even from his species. He did not regret those choices. He knew why he had made them. Humans were strange in the eyes of many galactic species. They were physically weaker than some, slower than others, and not as naturally gifted in certain skills. But they had something inside them that no metric could calculate. They had a stubbornness that refused to let them quit. They had a courage that burned even when hope was thin. Ray knew this. He had lived it. but he did not expect others to understand it. He reached the quiet section of the ship where the observation bay overlooked the stars. He sat down and watched the distant lights. They reminded him of the nights he spent back on his home planet before he joined the Alliance. He wondered if he should return. Maybe he had done enough. Maybe it was time to step aside and let others carry the mission. Hours turned into half a day. Meanwhile, Lyra found herself unable to focus on her work. Every report, every command, every tactical plan felt heavier. Her crew noticed her silence. They knew she was troubled, though no one understood the full reason. Finally, she left the command hall and went to the records room. She requested the footage from Ray's last mission. She watched the moment he had rushed into the unstable chamber. She watched the readouts showing the energy spike. She saw how close the station had come to exploding. She watched Ray stabilizing the core through sheer fast thinking and will. He had saved them. She knew it now more clearly than ever. Lyra felt a deep sting in her chest. She wished she could take back her harsh words. She knew she had spoken from fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of disaster. Fear of losing someone she relied on more than she admitted. She left the records room and walked toward the observation bay. She knew he would be there. Humans always sought quiet places when burdened by thoughts. When she entered the bay, she found him sitting alone, still staring at the stars. His armor was no longer with him. He looked like someone ready to leave forever. She stood near him but kept a respectful distance. "Ray," she said softly. He did not turn, but she saw his shoulders tense. "I should not have spoken to you like I did," she said. "I was wrong." Ray finally looked up at her. His expression was calm, almost too calm. "Why did you say those things?" he asked. Lyra lowered her gaze. Her voice stayed steady but honest. "I fear losing my crew. I fear losing those I depend on. When you entered that chamber, I saw the risk before I saw the reasoning. I acted from fear, and I blamed you to cover that fear. It was unfair." Ray studied her face. He had known many leaders, but few apologized so openly. Lyra took a slow breath. "Our people respect discipline. It is woven into our culture. But sometimes I forget that other species move differently. You make choices from instinct and heart. You weigh danger differently. I did not respect that." Ray looked back toward the stars. "I am not trying to go against you," he said. "I just want to protect people, even when the rules say wait." "I know," she replied. "And that is what makes humans remarkable. You push farther than logic says you should. You take risks that others would never dare. It is why alliances trust you." Ray let her words settle. "I want you to return," she said. "Not because you follow orders, but because we need you. You have saved us again and again. I should have said thank you instead of criticizing you." Ray did not answer right away. He closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about everything he had endured, everything he had given. He thought about how many times he had walked away from places that never understood him. He did not want this fleet to become another one of those places. At last, he stood up and faced her fully. "If I return, things need to change," he said. "Not just for me, but for others too. You have good people here. They need to know they can act when they see danger, even if protocol has not caught up yet." Lyra nodded without hesitation. "I understand," she said. "And I will adjust. I will learn from this." Ray looked into her eyes and saw sincerity there. He saw the weight she carried and the effort she made to speak honestly. "All right," he said. "I will come back." Lyra exhaled in relief. She did not smile, for her species did not show emotion that way, but her posture softened. "Your armor is still in the hall," she said. I will have it cleaned and repaired. Ray shook his head. I will get it myself, he said. It is mine. I should carry it. Together, they walked back through the corridors. The crew watched them with quiet interest. They could sense that something important had been resolved. When Ray reached his armor, he placed his hand on the chest plate. He picked it up and lifted it to his shoulder. It felt heavy, but in a familiar way, a weight he was willing to carry. Over the next days, the fleet prepared for a major operation. The machine swarm had been gathering near a border world. If the swarm broke through, entire systems could fall. Lyra worked closely with Ray, relying on his instincts and his experience from human combat training. She treated him with new respect. She asked for his insights instead of dismissing his ideas. He responded with steady commitment. Their working rhythm became smooth, stronger than before, shaped by honesty rather than fear. When the battle began, it was fierce. Swarm units moved in organized waves, their metallic forms shining under the cold stars. The fleet fought with discipline, but it was Ray who saw the pattern first. He identified a weakness in the swarm formation, a small gap that could shift the entire fight. It was risky to exploit it, but Ray was sure. Lyra trusted him. She ordered the fleet to follow his plan. The crews moved with precision. Ray led a strike team into the heart of the enemy pattern. They broke through, disrupted the control signals, and turned the tide of the battle. The swarm retreated. When the fighting ended, the fleet was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, cheers rose from crew members across the decks. They had done the impossible once more. And at the center of it all was Aashi.